whenever you start talking about the US military, people start bringing up crazy statistics about it. They might pull up charts like this from Wikipedia that shows military spending all over the world. We spend 2.2 trillion in the world. The US spends 0.9 of that, which means we spend more than a third of the entire world on our military. They might point out that if you took the next 10 countries and all added them all up, we spend about that much, and 8 of those are our allies. But where the rubber meets the road about actual military spending, kind of how it's falling out, I think you will be surprised. So this is the article I want to cover from the Wall Street Journal. Is U.S. can afford a bigger military, we just can't build it. And I want to cover it for some personal reasons, because that is a Virginia class submarine on the cover, and that is a Virginia class model that I served on. So I was a JO in the submarine fleet, and I can't really go into all the details, but I was intimately involved with the building and delivery of the Virginia class submarine. So this is kind of a personal story for me. This article kind of poo-poos what's going on with military production, but I think they missed some very, very important points on it. So the first thing they talk about is the budget. I think most people will find this surprising. Let's zoom in. This is military spending as a share of GDP. So this is how much we spend on the military divided by the size of our economy. So it's kind of inflation adjusted. And you can see that it has come down dramatically since 1965, down to about 3%, right? In this, you can see the spikes here from effectively the global war on terrorism, Iraq, and Afghanistan. But we really have come down to kind of what we consider baseline these days. The article does mention that it is getting close to how much we spend on debt interest. So this, if you watch the channel, you know I love my Fred graphs. This is from the Federal Reserve Economic Database. 3% is up here. This is how much we spend in interest payments on the debt as a percentage of GDP. You can watch some of my other videos about the debt, about how this is going to head back towards 3% at least, and we will probably live in a world where we're spending more on debt interest than we are on the military, which is a comment about both the debt and our spending on military. But then it goes on to talk about production. I'm going to come back to the budget. And it uses this as a point of saying that we can't build ships effectively anymore, and that they're all over cost. Simple truth is, I'd love to see the numbers for the ships that were being built in the 80s and 90s, which were significantly less sophisticated. And I can certainly tell you from the Virginia class that was 11% over budget and delivered within a few months of when it was supposed to. The class before that was the Seawolf, which was famously like a decade behind schedule. And I don't remember the percentage. I think it was crazy amounts of money that the Seawolf program was over budget. So the Virginia was a raging success, a success so big that Australia buys them now. And that's a big deal because submarines are incredibly sophisticated. In fact, all of these ships that they're talking about, these are incredibly sophisticated war machines. And you don't just go to a shipbuilder and build them. Now, China, that they're saying here can put out so many more than we can, they're not building these ships as sophisticated as we are. And why it's important that Australia is buying our submarines is if we can produce more submarines, that means we can stand up more shipyards capable of building them. Because building submarines is not something you get into overnight. Ask China. They have been for 50 years probably trying to stand up a nuclear submarine fleet that just is not where they want it to be in terms of capability. It's certainly capable, but it's nowhere near the US, Great Britain, and kind of the other major submarine operators of the world. Now, just a personal side note, it's funny that they put the Texas on here. We Virginia sailors get a little touchy when, this is supposed to be first of a class ships, and they put the Texas on, which was the second of a class. But I think they put it on because she was even more expensive than the Virginia. We get touchy because they did a documentary on the Texas. Well, they wanted to do it on the Virginia class, but they did it on the Texas, and they literally told us because, well, like Texans like Texas more than Virginians like Virginia, so more people will watch it if it's about the Texas. Of course, the Texas was not at sea. She was still being built when they were doing the video. So most of the footage from the documentary, which I dug up, it's horrible quality, was actually shot on the Virginia. This guy right here was a JO that I served on. This was a quartermaster I worked with my entire time on the boat, and that was our ANAV. So if you ever watch a documentary on the USS Texas, I think my voice is actually in this. I didn't want to dig through the whole video and find it, but that documentary is actually on the Virginia. All right. So now let's talk about the real takeaways here, right? The first takeaway is that despite decreased spending and overruns, the US military, in my opinion, is so much more capable than it was. We're coming off two major wars. We are really a wartime military that whose readiness, in my opinion, is way ahead of where it was, despite the fact that we were spending money. So I understand we spend a third of all the world's money on military spending, but we get a very capable military from it. The second is this economic side where they talk about China's ability to outproduce us. Yeah, well, they didn't for the last 3 years, right? And that's really what this video talks about, Cold War 2.0, about the economic impacts of the coming Cold War and how that is different than the original Cold War that we fought around the economics in this globalized economy. So if you're interested about military spending, the Cold War that is really in effect right now that we are in with China, then I strongly recommend this video. Otherwise, I will talk to you soon, and thank you.